The atheist problem, they are asking the wrong questions. Your problem is that you asking the wrong type of questions, you are asking the how questions, while we ask why questions. Both questions are going to level up your awareness. But the knowledge out of how questions are very limited and they are right to be used when you want to build a house. Scientists are asking how questions, that's why now they know many things and they are still learning. The answers of how questions help them to build better houses to have better quality of life, and that is the purpose of such questions to get such knowledge. But things are already exist, means the house is already there and you want to know who built it. Then you need to change you type of questions which you are using for such knowledge. Because you will get the wrong knowledge if you keep asking how questions. The right type of questions for such knowledge are the why questions, whereby each answer of why questions, you will got new part of the picture, where in the end, you will get the whole picture, but after your awareness leveled up to new levels. In the end you will understand that you are involved in an awareness game. God is very magnificent and very great to be captured by only one artist to draw a picture of him. The portrait. So the only way for that portrait to be drawn is by each of us to realize part of his picture and draw it. You will get some of those pieces in the nature, others they will find it in the universe, and the rest you will find it in yourself. Also, as he is magnificent you will not see him because still your awareness is not qualified for such awareness. Instead God made a feeling as the only way to realize him, till you reach with that feeling to a degree you are seeing him. That feeling is believing. That feeling is not constant, instead it is increasing or decreasing, depending on your actions. Are those actions are fit with such belief level? Where he asks you for things to be done to learn control. If you disobeyed him then you wouldn't keep the same level of belief feelings, so such feelings need to go less, to be saved away from God wrath, so you can have a chance to be more aware, and to keep having a chance till your last breath. So if you are not believing. Then now the reason is understood, that reason is not related to logic or related to evidence. People begin their journey in life in a path away of the path of truth that requires a huge awareness level to be aware of, and that is the game as you will know later. So we all are strayed, whether the Muslims or non-Muslims. During our lifetime, God guides to him, to the true Islam, whoever he wishes. Out of justness, God made his will for guidance is fixed in a sunnah, a rule. The rule is that guidance is only for those who are righteous and pure. It is for whoever drives himself to the side of piety and morality. So it was logical that all religions and beliefs share morality and piety, as well as the tendency toward morality, which all people find it in themselves. Being a Muslim is just a grace, like any enviable grace that count on. That grace I may be deprived of, like any other graces due to ignorance, indulgence, or extremism, or arrogance. And as a consequence of I may become infidel of that blessing. This grace and the rest of the graces that Allah give to some people are actually for righteousness testing and awareness testing. So the result either we become thankful to God for that grace or infidel. Moreover most people are tested by hard time and deprivation too. One of the severest deprivation test is that you born not Muslim. The rule here is that God is testing your righteousness and awareness level by giving you a graces or by depriving you from these graces. So the one who is born with graces they are getting those graces not because of preference. Just as those who are graced with much money are few, likewise those who are blessed in religion of truth are few, and so it was God's will to improve human being awareness. You need to know that you are being with an evolving awareness started from zero level, where the basis of our existence is to raise awareness to new levels with ego control at that new level of awareness, so either you become at that certain level of awareness, thankful to God submitted to him or infidel to him like Satan. Awareness can only achieve by knowing, where the more you become aware of the more you become able to generate love feelings that generate happiness that's supposed to guarantee eternity. God said, "Indeed, we offered the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, and they declined to bear it and feared it, but man bare it. Indeed, he was unjust and ignorant." You are a spirit entity that has spiritual identity with a certain level of goodness and awareness. You are here because you accepted to take a chance to increase your ability to happiness. That ability to happiness can only happen through raising up the level of the spirit or goodness and raising up the level of awareness. Therefore the trust was offered, by which you become a soul that has two self-identities. The first identity is the spiritual self, which is the soul eater. And the second identity is the brain self or the partner, which is the leader's servant and his consultant. But the mental identity is rebellious and always seeks to take leadership and presidency from its master. And as you know, every self-identity has a free will and ego. By this soul and its combinations, you have become able to level up your awareness and level up your spirit to new levels of goodness and awareness, where the way to level up your awareness is by knowledge, and the way to level up your goodness level is by self-awareness. So that the more conscious self is the spiritual self. You need to know that in every new level of awareness, there is a new level of ego. You need to know that the tyranny of spiritual ego is a sin that can be forgiven, where Adam disobeyed his Lord for his extreme love of goodness and happiness that can generate out of that goodness. While the tyranny of mental self is expelling from God's mercy, where Satan disobeyed his Lord out of arrogance. So Adam's sin was caused by his intense love of happiness that can be generated out of goodness, and this is a fundamental nature in all human souls, as aware of goodness brings happiness, where happiness is the target in the end. So Adam's sin wasn't his desire to get happiness, that was supposed to be out of eating the fruits of that tree. But it was because of his inability to restrain his desire to obtain grace. This desire can increase in way that he may disobey his Lord for that happiness. However, this sin may be forgiven and does not expel such sinner from the mercy of God. The Almighty said, then learnt Adam from his Lord words of inspiration, and his Lord turned toward him, for he is oft returning most merciful. While Satan's disobedience was a reason for the seal of the heart and the duty of God's wrath. Because it was about a great defect in the soul, this defect began with arrogant and will be followed by new names that are incidental to the eternity and contrary to goodness. The reason for those incidental names to be in existence is that crippled self. Due to its lack of self-control and lack of perfection, so that is why the devil disobeyed God out of arrogance. Therefore greatness and ego was limited to God alone for his perfection, so nothing but goodness comes out of his arrogance the Almighty. God said, get thee down from this, it is not for thee to be arrogant here, get out for thou art of the meanest. So the general rule here is that the perfect, which consisted of goodness perfection and awareness perfection, doesn't require self-control, while the one who is less perfection, if he holds self and identity, then he requires self-control. And he need to learn self-control, otherwise he will disobeys. So the human self is a mixture of two selves, or let's say two identities, the spiritual self, which is spiritual identity that tends towards greed for its extreme love of happiness that comes out of graces. And the mental self, which is mental identity that tends to obtaining consciousness, then tends towards arrogance because of that new ego of that identity and such new level of consciousness. Controlling the spiritual ego can be by abandoning greed, while adjusting the mental ego is only can happen by giving up arrogance and selfishness, and this is the path of self-awareness, which is the path of purification of the soul in total, and purifying of its spirit. The soul will eventually be on a degree of goodness and a degree of awareness. Soul awareness is the result of spiritual self-awareness and mental self-awareness, and among what the soul is aware of is own self-awareness. General rule, the most conscious is always the strongest, therefore the default situation is that spiritual self-awareness is higher than mental self-awareness, in order for highness or supremeness of the self can happen. So if the spiritual self-awareness is the highest and the greatest, the dominance of the spiritual self can be achieved over the soul self, while the mental self is as an authorized counselor, whose opinion sometimes can be taken and neglects many times.